by the war on drugs, and also to share our space with intersecting communities. So we're so honored for Mama Julz to be here. Thank you so much, Julie, for organizing this, and thank you everyone for coming out.
Yeah.
And if you have any questions, just let us know. And there's plenty of food. Thank you.
Yeah.
Woo!
So I just do like some introductions about what the work that you do. We'll start with Julz.
Okay, so like Anna said, my name is Mama Julz. I'm a Guala Lakota. I'm the founder of the Mothers Against Meth Alliance. That's when they call me Mama. I do a lot of work with meth addiction back home and harm reduction on the reservation. And right now, their war on drugs is criminalizing all of that. So I do a lot of advocating for the relatives who are struggling with meth addiction on Pine Ridge. And I'm currently building a healing space. It's all grassroots healing space for the meth addicts who are wanting to heal. So it's gonna be working with the land, like just coming back to living off the land, basically self-sufficiency. We're planning on doing a food forest, gardens, some other things.
Amazing.
I'm Britt Creech. I'm the interim executive director of the San Francisco Drug Users Union and also the operations manager of the Vanguard Lab. And as Ivy said, this is our baby. Currently, the union has been closed. We have another location on Turk. So this is, actively the union. And when we created this space, we wanted a place where people could have community space. If you go outside and you see all the people in the streets, 1 out of 10 people out there are homeless. The rest live in SROs or wherever they live. And I don't know if you all been in an SRO before. It's not really much of a living space, and so they come outside, and that's where their community space is. But not everybody wants to be in that space. So we have a dedicated space for people that are serious about wanting to be creative and be in community. I came to this work 22 years ago through working in women's health. And I started a drop-in center, and there's an intersection of drug users and homelessness and our community members. And from that, it just kind of evolved. Worked in tenant rights for a long time, working in SROs, empowering people to fight against bad landlords. And then also women's health. Ran an outreach program for 10 years. Amy was a long-time volunteer with our program. It has been with me since 2008. Yeah, for a long time. And then I came to the union last winter, and I never thought I'd be working at the Drug Users Union. There's a lot of stigma that goes along with it. But I started volunteering, and then we ended up taking over this project. And this project is funded through US Now grant. Provided by Yale University and UCLA, and it's a space dedicated towards the most marginalized. And so we've been able to create this space and serve the community that it's meant for, which is a huge win. Yeah.
For Julz, what brings you to do this work? What got you into it, and what can you say about how that relates to colonialism?
Okay, so in order to answer that question, I'm gonna have to go back into.
Yes, go back.
I'm gonna have to go back. So, like I was sharing with some of y'all earlier, I'm a boarding school survivor. I was sent away to boarding school when I was 5 years old, and it was all priests there. And everything you read and hear about is what happened there, all of it. And I spent 8 years there. And then I went back to the reservation when I was 14, which was a cultural shock for me too. And coming out of a place of trauma and hurt, I turned to alcoholism. And my res is a dry res, but 2 miles south is a town called White Clay, Nebraska, which used to sell over 1 million cans of beer a day to our people on the res. And so I started drinking, just not caring about myself, trying to find love, really trying to find love. I ended up pregnant at 15 from a man who was like 30 years old. My mom didn't want to press charges or whatever, do anything, because she said it was my fault for being all drunk and running around with these dudes. So I ended up with the baby at 16 and a sophomore in high school. And so of course I was sent to another school, Catholic school, Red Cloud Catholic school for high school. Did all that, went to high school, went to college. I ended up, I married a really older man because I never healed from all my traumas I went through. I just kept going. And he was very abusive, really abusive. And I had 3 children from him. I was married to him for 17 years. I finally left him after he almost killed me. That's my blind in this eye. And I finally divorced him. And I got with him when I was like 21 years old, and that was like my security, like. And so when I divorced him, I went through all these other feelings, and because of my trauma, I ended up with another dude, and he used to go to White Clay, and he would like visit up there or whatever. And I was sober then. I fell off the wagon. I was sober, like my kids, just raising my kids, going to work, going to college, being married to this alcoholic man. And then once I divorced him, I was like, oh shit, I'm free, you know. And then I started drinking again, and I ended up on the streets of White Clay. I lost my kids, I lost my house, I lost everything I had. And so I was there for a year, just drunk on the streets, just every day, just drinking. And then when my youngest daughter was 5, I went to an Indigenous healing treatment center, and it was really good. It helped you to bring out your traumas and stuff. And so after that, I sobered up, and I was sober 2 years. And my oldest daughter became addicted to meth. And none of us knew what meth was. Like, we read about it from like in the big cities or whatever, but now it's like my daughter's on it. And I was in denial for a whole year. And so I was like really mad. I was trying to figure out what I could do. I went to my tribe to get her help. They didn't have no programs that dealt with the meth epidemic. They said meth wasn't on our res. I'm like, my daughter's clearly addicted, you know, and like I didn't understand the like the needles. I was just like so mad, and just seeing my daughter so strung out, I started going for the dealers. I started publicly shaming them because that's part of our traditional law. Like my program, Mamas, is all written under our traditional law, and that was even before treaties. You know, we had our own way of and I don't even want to say policing because that's so colonial. We had our own way of just keeping communities safe. And so I started publicly shaming the dealers. I started actually fighting them, like fist fighting them when I see them at we have one big store, so you're automatically gonna run into people there. So I would wait there and call them out, have a big fight, beat them up. Then they'd come back later and have someone shoot my house up or shoot my cars up. And it just got really, really violent and really dangerous. And then my kids all start having babies, and so I start having grandchildren in the home. So I'm like, I can't be doing this vigilante stuff like with the babies here. Even though I'm so protected, I gotta quit pushing it to the ancestors might get sick of me. So I said, all right, I'm just gonna focus on the addicts. I'm gonna focus on them and help them any way they need help. And so I thought, okay, I'll do this detox. And after doing that for like 5 years, I couldn't do it. It was just so heartbreaking, and I was still trying to understand and come to terms with things. And then every single one of my daughters got addicted to meth. All 3 of them, from my oldest down to my baby. My baby's still addicted, and we're still, fighting to get her healing. But yeah, and just seeing the way that our community would shame them. They're like, oh, we need to help these people. But then again, turn around and say, these meth heads are like breaking into cars, or your meth heads are doing this or doing that. And it started to get really violent too. Like, we had a young girl, my daughter's best friend, they were 14, she was gunned down on the street. So I started doing my own patrols. Because when I first started fighting meth, the addicts thought I was just like there to round them up and give them over to the feds. And I'm like, yo, the feds are looking for me too. Just kidding. I don't fuck with them. You don't have to worry about me calling the cops. I don't fuck with the cops. Like, they don't like me either, So it took a lot of time to get their trust. And now it's just like that's my family. I'd rather hang out with a group of the people in my program than go sit in a council meeting with our council reps who look down on us, So my job really is with the people. No matter where I go, I end up out on the streets with the people, and just like I said, like, they would put them on blast or whatever, and I'm like, that's my kids you're talking about. Like, and don't get me wrong, like, when I first started fighting meth, I was the same way, like, you fucking meth heads, stay away from my kids, and just in so much denial until, I had to come out of that denial. So I think every place that I've been in my life led me up to what I'm doing now, because it gives you that compassion and that empathy for the people. And it goes back even to the land, it's all connected. And so in order for our people to heal, like on the res, where they put us there thinking we're gonna kill each other off, over 500 years of genocide committed towards our people, send our people off to the cities to go learn how to live in that way, or, take our babies, send them to boarding school. We just had one of my great-great-grandmas returned from Carlisle. From 3 weeks ago, we were able to bury her with our family. She was 17 years old. She only lived 1 month there, and they killed her. And then they didn't even know, like, they had to do that radar stuff and then DNA. And that's how they found out that she was ours. And so they just brought her home, and we had a burial for her, So all of those things were killing off the buffalo, killing our food. Not only us, all tribes, they did that too, That's just what we went through as Lakotas. And every tribe went through the same thing, And we're still here. We're still here. We're right now. We're in San Francisco. We're talking about this shit. And we're here. They're here. They're in Lakota.
Yeah.
And they're still here. Our buffalo are still here. Oh yeah, I'm gonna raise buffalo too one day. Frontline buffalo.
Hey, this comrade.
Comrades.
Yeah, we have buffalo in our park. And go get some from them.
But yeah, so all of these things led up to where I am now. And all of these things working with the addicts and even with the dealers, because some of them sobered up and come back and like, yo, if you didn't do that to me, I would have still been dealing, but you changed my life around. And that's what keeps me going.
Question. This one's for Britt. So what similarities have you noticed of just hearing Julz speak of how it is here in this neighborhood?
Wow. There's so many similarities. Well, just to give a little backstory, it's interesting. I grew up in North Dakota, in Wilton, which is about 20 miles north of the capital. I found out at 40 that I'm a quarter Lakota Sioux, which, I was raised thinking that I was a Norwegian African-American baby. But growing up, my best friend was Lakota Sioux in school. I remember he was taken away from his family and brought to the school and indoctrinated in a white family, and then, you know, one day he was taken away. And, you know, there was very few brown people where I'm from, and going off to college and seeing other people of color finally, and then seeing that the stories are so similar, colonialism is a terrible thing, and genocide is a real thing, and it's happening to this day. So it's kind of emotional for me to talk about, because it's something that we see and it's been normalized and just kind of forgotten about. So, you know, when I go out and protest, you know, for what's going on in the Middle East and stuff, I have to bring, you know, our ancestors forward to, you know, in that call. But similarities. It's interesting because, you know, people have been doing drugs since the dawning of time, and they will always be doing drugs. And I think it's on how you look at the drugs. I mean, I know people that do meth and that are full functioning people. I also know people that do meth that are not. And just like with anything, it's about balance and figuring that out. And trying, you know, half the damage that happens to people is from stigma and from people shutting doors and not being compassionate and empathetic towards people. So, you know, here, doing the work that we do, you know, we try to embrace everybody and try to take the best of what they have and try to nurture that and uplift that in a way so people can be seen and try to make room for people. You know, meth is a terrible thing, and it does terrible things to people. And, you know, partly I do believe in my heart, and from my experience, what I've seen, so much of that problem also comes from the trauma. It's not necessarily the drugs. The drugs are just a catalyst to that. And so when people can start embracing, you know, what's hurting them and dealing with that, you can release some of that and you can really heal. I always say less is more, and harm reduction is a good thing. So the goal is to get people to reduce or to find different ways, and that can happen. But also, not everybody's going to do that. So how do you survive and live in a world where there's going to be people that are just kind of like out there? And it really starts from just creating spaces. So, you know, we have the same problems here as they have, you know, in Pine Ridge. You know, it's a game. It's, you know, the government's involved. You know, actually, I think that they're the main culprit of everything. And, you know, as harm reductionists, we just, you know, fight against the politics and the police, who are, you know, half the battle, and try to bring the harm reduction tools to them. Right now, politically in San Francisco, there's a war on harm reduction. Right now, we're the only agency that's giving away glass apparatuses for people to use the drugs with some dignity. And it's a scary thing, because there's not enough education on regular people. They don't understand really what harm reduction is. And the thing is that it's taken years and years and years for results to be seen. And if you take away, it's going to bring us back to zero, you know, back again, and having to redo everything and stuff that we already know. So part of that is the fight is getting people, you know, if you have to play the game, have the right politics and understand. Because you have these horrible people out there just saying it's bad, it's bad, it's bad, and they don't really understand the reason why we have basically almost zero, you know, AIDS, HIV transmissions. Hep C has been reduced. You know, all these things that were rampant, you know, that took 30, 40 years of harm reduction to get to this point. And so, you know, just accepting people for who they are and trying to find the positive. That's all you can really do. And of course, always push back against, you know, the government and, you know, the men in power. Yeah. I don't know if I answered the question. But
You did. Thank you. All right. Julz, what are some ways that people outside of your community have tried to harm your efforts?
Well, the cops for sure. We have a law now that they passed to fight the war on meth, and it's dangerous drug paraphernalia. So I used to go out and deliver care packets, which had clean needles in it, and then I would take their containers and dispose of them at the hospital. Someone snitched me out, man. So then the cop, one of my cousins who's a cop, he was like, yo, I heard you're giving clean needles out. And I'm like, I am, why? And he's like, you know, there's a law against dangerous drug paraphernalia. And if we catch you, we're gonna put you in jail. Yeah, so then I have to sneak and do it, you know, and like, sometimes I'm like ditching the cops, and I have like all this harm reduction shit in there, and I'm like trying to run them and ditch them, and that's literally what I have to freaking do in order to help my people to heal, you know. They don't understand the concept that right now we're having the highest rate of Hep C right now on the res. And they're like, why is that? Why, you idiots? Because you're stopping me from giving out clean needles. So right now we're having a syphilis epidemic. Like, one of my grandbabies was born with it and had to spend like 10 days in a hospital hooked up to an IV in their forehead. You know, things like that they don't want to talk about. They're like, okay, give it to the hospital, let them deal with it. You know, it's a community thing. We all need to step up. We all need to step up. And also the stigma of like looking down on them. Like they're not good enough to have clean needles, or else they'll say like, well, you're helping them to kill themselves. You know, they just don't understand the concept of harm reduction. And I try to explain to them like they can overcome this meth epidemic. One day they're gonna be sober, you know, that's my hopes and prayers for all of them. But then, are they gonna have to be dealing with these other diseases like HIV, Hep C, you know? Syphilis could be healed, but still, it's just a high rate of all these. And it's because of the meth epidemic, you know, it's crazy how I see them all get together with each other. And even the teenagers who ain't even on drugs, who are just all partying, are dealing with this too. And so, yeah, it's really dangerous. And so I have all these, like the cops, the hospital was starting to get mad at me because I was taking too many of the needles for them to dispose of. Just all these governmental agencies that are, you know, trying to push back against me, but like we're grassroots, you know, we don't care, we do what we want.
And you know, there's like those white kids in, you know, middle America too that are doing meth more than anybody.
Right.
And until it hits them, it's not a problem, but it's already
Exactly.
hit them. And it's like God is the answer, and like you're going to clean all this up, but actually their kids are doing it as well, and you think they would be, you know, they would understand. There's so much evidence and so much proof to prove, you know, we have almost zero Hep C rates, almost. I mean, we're low. HIV because of the work that the needle exchanges have been doing for these years. I remember growing up in North Dakota and Minnesota, you would have to call somebody and meet them under the bridge to get like a 10-pack of needles. And if you couldn't get that, then you were saving your needles, sharpening with a matchbook, sharing them, and that's the problem. It's
Running
the problem.
Clorox.
Yeah, running Clorox with bleach, which is terrible. And you should not have Hep C. It should not be on the rise in your reservation. That's not a problem. I do believe that politics definitely has a part in it, because it is, they still want to eradicate natives, indigenous people. They do. And what better way to do it than let them to themselves?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, it's almost like you're in a cage and they just kind of like circle around. Same here, you know? They just run people around. They don't arrest, arrests are really low for drugs. You can, as you walk up the street, you see everybody just doing drugs casually. And they've gotten to that point because they don't want to pick them up and put them in county and have to deal with all of that and all this
This is
stuff.
costing a lot of money.
Yeah, but it also, that's, the money's not the issue. It's the issue is that they don't want to deal with people. And, but what they can do is they can just play games. You know, you always hear about a bust here, a bust there, and it's just a game. So we have to be honest about what's going on and see that it's a bigger picture than just people. Because people are going to still be doing drugs. You know, they're going to do drugs. They're going to find a way to do drugs. They're going to do drugs. We have to accept it. You know, we accept alcohol, we accept sugar, we accept coffee. You know, those are drugs as well. So yeah, it's my education.
Alright, I have one more question, and then we're gonna do some Q&A type of discussion, but what are some ways, Julz, that people outside the community can help your work and support you?
Well, being that we are grassroots, we always need funds. If you know anyone rich, tell them about Mama's. This is like one of, as far as I know, what I'm doing is like the first one going on Indigenous territories, the healing space that I'm building. I've been praying for this for 10 years. I finally got enough funds to, I bought one trailer, and then the landlord's like, I'll give you these other 3 trailers, you just give me $3,000 and move them. So I'm like, oh, all right, yeah, hell yeah, I just paid $15,000 for this other one, sure. And it was all fundraising. We literally sell these comics, sell t-shirts, like literally it's always a hustle. And a lot of my work is like trying to fundraise to even just be able to do my work, you know. And my goal really is to be self-sufficient. Like, I don't want to depend on the electricity company if I need electricity or whatever. I'm really trying to be self-sufficient as we can and teach the people that we can live this way, you know, live off the land. And so, and just sharing, I have a Facebook page called Mothers Against Meth Alliance. I'm sorry, I'm gonna admit I've been really neglecting that page, and I'll have to get more activity on it. But yeah, if you have garden seeds, weed seeds, send them.
We should partner. I think we can find something to do together for
Let's
sure.
do it.
Yeah. Get some grants going maybe. There's so much money out there. You just
I
to
do
be
have a fiscal
rapid.
sponsor, but like, I know how to write no
Well, you're
grant.
official. Well, we can get our money together. You know, like that's the thing. You know, like I'm in goosebumps right now, like thinking about the future and what could possibly happen. You know, definitely. You know, just have to manifest it.
Yes, our ancestors got us.
Yeah.
Does anyone wanna ask a question?
Rose, thanks for coming. By the way, I'm so happy.
Hi, I'm Rose. You know, you were talking about how people outside can support your efforts inside. I think one of my questions is kind of like builds off of that, of like, how can we connect together to also like strengthen the map of this work? You know, I came here today as somebody who, you know, is immersed in community, who, you know, navigates these struggles, and I'm still learning. You know, I'm still navigating my own internalized biases around ways in which we've been taught to respond to things, and so that's why I wanted to come. And also just like, you know, so okay, I hear you on the, you know, the grants, the funding, garden seeds. I'm gonna reach out to who I can run. And then on the other side, you know, like, what is the drum we can bang here for you? For us, for all of us.
I don't know.
Connections. maybe.
Connections, definitely. Like, everybody in this room is here for a reason. Like, Creator literally put us all in this room together for a reason. And it's for those connections.
Yeah, there's some people definitely that we need to introduce you to for sure. Like Eliza Wheeler, amazing person who does Remedy Alliance and brings Narcan and pushes and has a history up in the Dakotas and Minnesota working on the reservations actually.
Nice.
So I definitely gonna get her your
Cool,
information.
yes.
And she's fully funded,
Nice.
full time.
Awesome.
So yeah.
I had a group hit me up from Oregon who said that they would come through. And so I'm like, yeah, come through. Like, I'm grassroots. We got to do this under, you know, like underground shit. And they're like, well, we want a letter from your president. I'm like, my president's not going to write you a letter, sis. I'll write you a letter. Come on out. We don't go by what the president's. That's all government, colonial shit too, even our tribal governments. So yeah, I don't fuck with them either.
The Harm Reduction Coalition also is a great organization, and when they're going to have their conference coming up in 2006 maybe, and it's a national organization. Our dear friend Mark Guzman is the executive director, but they have a lot of resources, and it would be good to bring you in. You should be there, you know, across the whole
That
nation.
would be so awesome.
So yeah, definitely connection.
Yeah, for reals.
Yeah, and you know, we can, on our part, uplift your stories and, you know, bring some visibility.
Thank you.
Definitely.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And you know, it's trendy to be down with Indigenous, you know. Sucks being a token, but you know.
Gotta do it.
That
I
takes
do. So if you were fully funded, what would this program look like for you?
Oh gosh, if I was fully funded, man, I would have buildings built for our relatives. I would have, oh man, I could do so much. I would have our own clinic there where they could just come in and not have to worry about, like, I'm on my own land. Well, not right now, but I'm gonna be like within this month. On my own piece of land where cops can't come on there. They want to pull a 73, we shoot it out. You ain't coming on my land to get my land. You ain't coming here, I shoot for.
I have a question. Okay, so if you're on a reservation, the regular police cannot come on there. You only have reservation police.
When you enter Lakota territory, you are no longer in the United States.
Okay, and how big is your portion of?
Our reservation, I believe it's the second biggest after the Dene.
Okay, so how big is it? Is it like 1/4 of North Dakota or South Dakota or?
No, like maybe a fourth,
Okay,
eighth,
so-
maybe.
Well, for all of our, so we have several different reservations. We were called the Ocheti Shakoi, where we were all one people
Okay.
at the Battle of Little Bighorn when we beat Custer. I just have to say that.
He wasn't a hero.
He was not a hero.
Ugly.
Got his ass kicked and grass stuffed in his ears by those Cheyenne women. But, so then after that, they realized how strong we really were, so they split us up.
Oh,
And so our original territory went all the way into the Montana area where the battle was. And so that was supposed to be Crazy Horse's reservation.
okay.
But when they brought him in and he went to sign them, that's when they killed him. So then they put the Crows there, our known, you know, enemies, so they have to look out over that battle and say, gee, Lakotas did all that, you know?
So you have an enmity between the Crow and the Oglala Sioux, is that?
We did, yeah, we did, but now we're kinda making amends, like,
Okay,
yeah, I know some couple cool Crow folks.
okay.
It goes from North Dakota to South Dakota. Does it go all over to Montana?
Yeah.
It goes, yeah, so it's like a.
It goes, our original territory goes all the way to, Missouri.
Okay.
Where those rivers, there's the confluence of the Mississippi and the Missouri. We followed the buffalo all the way that way, and we did ceremony there at that confluence.
So, South Dakota touches Oklahoma, touches Missouri, is that how that goes?
Sometimes.
South Dakota, there's North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska. On this side, it's Wyoming,
Oh, Nebraska.
North Dakota,
Colorado?
Kansas, wait, no, it's Minnesota.
Minnesota,
Yeah.
Kansas, but it's
Yeah.
Colorado on this side.
Colorado's down
Yeah.
further, yeah.
That's
That's
big.
where we used to go to get our weed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Before we got legal.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, so there's 4, 5, wait, no, there's actually 7 reservations. Like Standing Rock is, half of Standing Rock, South Dakota, and half of it's North Dakota.
So how many people are you talking about that is your community?
So I live right in the Pine Ridge community, and that's where like the main fort was and shit,
Okay,
and so they call us around the forts. Because we live in Pine Ridge, and like that's where the main fort was. But our original, we lived in Porcupine. But in my little community of Pine Ridge, shit, that's like the capital of Pine Ridge. That's where all the offices are, the tribal building, the commods, the rations. They get them there too. So, I don't know, something like that.
I just read that, so the Lakota, as a tribe, or as a nation, is the only nation to have gone from the population and have grown, and continued to grow. And I know it was like at 1813, it was like 28,000, and I think the last census was like 154,000 now.
And that's the
active.
whole res?
The whole Lakota,
okay.
which is many different
Yeah.
offshoots, but like that's, and it's the only one that's expanded.
Wow, that's badass.
Which is really
So how many
amazing.
people do you interact with? You're
On a
out.
daily, I'll interact with probably 50, because I go out on the streets.
Okay.
And we have one main street, and these church people opened up a homeless shelter. And so all the folks from the districts, we have 9 districts on Pine Ridge Reservation, so all those folks come into town because that's where all the liquor is, the drugs, all of that.
Okay.
So then I go out on the street, so I go, that's my first stop in the morning, is to the shelter to check on all the folks there. And then I go to the grocery store, cause that's where they're panhandling, and the gas store, and I'm just out on the streets all day with them.
So I want to try to dispel illusion that people on the reservations are living in dilapidated housing.
Oh, we
They
are.
are.
Oh, you are?
We are.
Yes.
What kind of, like homemade, you don't live in a teepee?
They're HUD, I live in a teepee if I had one, but.
If you had,
Yeah.
would that be a choice? Or
Of
not?
course, I'd love to go back, I'd love to live in a teepee, yeah, we lived during Skagit Rock, folks, we went back to live in the old ways. I'm not bringing up old shit either, but still,
But so what is the housing look?
they're HUD housing,
So it's
It's HUD housing.
Several
Projects.
stories-
Yeah.
Several stories tall?
well, no, we don't have apartment buildings, we have
No apartment
we have single houses, or like duplexes,
Oh, okay,
but they brought them in the 20s.
okay. Oh,
Yeah, and so some of them still have the iron,
Yeah.
all that, those,
in the plumbing,
all that, yeah.
There is some though, like some tribes that have a casino maybe, but it's not, it's far in
We have a
between.
casino, but we owe Shakopee
Yeah,
for
Oh.
years.
Yeah.
Shakopee is in Minnesota.
Yep.
Right,
Yes.
yes.
okay.
They isolate you from the resources so you
Yes.
can't build houses or like have houses, right? Basically.
Well, folks, they have an option of buying like either veteran homes, or they have home ownerships.
Yeah.
And folks who just cannot get on housing, then we go to buying trailer houses.
Oh, okay. So would you consider your area, your part of the reservation rural? Or do you think it's condensed into an urban center? Or, I'm trying to picture.
It's a small town.
It's Pine Ridge is the town. We've
What's the
got
town?
3 gas stations, a
Okay.
grocery store. That's where our tribal building is. That's where the BIA building
Okay.
is. That's where, basically, if you had business to do and you live in Wombly, you're gonna have to drive 2 hours to Pine Ridge to get that business done.
Yeah.
And then 2 hours back. And Wombly's the farthest district on our res going east.
Going east, towards
Yes.
Minnesota.
Yeah. Well, just towards the rest of South Dakota,
Oh,
because we're
okay.
way on the
Oh,
western.
you're on the west.
The western corner.
Okay,
So if you have a map of South Dakota, so we're here on the western corner, like the Nebraska state line borders our reservation.
oh, okay.
Yeah, and then there's still a little bit more South Dakota, like you go an hour and a half west, then you'll be in Wyoming.
It's like the Badlands, right?
Oh.
Yeah, the Badlands is
So
on
which,
our
you know,
base.
they took the most, hardest land to like live off of.
Okay.
It's the Badlands, I don't know if it's been there before, but it's kind of like Martian,
It's like desert.
it's kind of desert, but kind of meets lots of rocks. It's where the glaciers dumped, when they were carving out the earth, just all the junk. So it's like red earth. It's beautiful,
It's beautiful.
but it's hard to grow a crop there.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it's
it's there.
there's burning coal there. That's where they're doing all the fracking and
And they also, did the bombing range
Yes.
on the north of our reservation back in the 30s.
Oh, okay.
So
because
people
it
are
was
still
decimated.
finding those
Yeah.
missile heads and shit out there.
Yeah.
I was curious about plant medicine. Do you have any thoughts?
Oh, that's one of the things I want to grow is like hella indica. Because a lot of the folks coming,
Build a greenhouse.
yes, a lot of the folks coming through my program when I was doing the detox, and I cannot get them to sleep for anything. I give them a fuck indica edible. That's where it is. Like they don't need far more pharmaceuticals going in their body. They already have all those chemicals from meth. So I give them edibles. And right now, the cheapest edibles is $35 for 100 milligrams on the res.
Wow.
So yeah, and for even a cone like the size that we had earlier, for that size it's $10. It's hella expensive. So my deal is I want to grow hella weed and have it free for them to come and utilize on their healing journey.
Are they cooking meth at your reservation?
Oh yeah, they cook meth everywhere. It's so easy to put it in your backpack and walk around here and cook it. Yeah,
It's easy to make.
it's so easy to make meth.
Okay, so, but everybody knows.
Everybody knows who does it, everybody knows who sells it, everybody knows who's cooking it, but
Okay.
nobody wants to speak up because they're scared because they see what I go through.
Yeah.
Every single car I've had in the last 10 years have had its windows smashed out.
Oh, really?
You go to both my trailers, which are both should be condemned, you can't even count with your fingers and toes how much bullet holes are in there. Both of my houses, and I am not protected by the cops.
Well, I just wanna say something.
Sure.
You are so knowledgeable and you've got information, you know, right there at your fingertips. You should write grants. You should at least.
I should.
Get a group of people. You can delegate authority, I think you can.
I don't like
I
to.
don't think it seems necessary.
Wow.
To get some
I've had
grants,
the same
get
convo
grants.
with the homie a couple days ago, couple
I'm
weeks
sorry, I
ago.
didn't hear you.
I had the same conversation with a really good friend of mine, and they were just dead set on like, you are not gonna get this built. You don't have the money. I'm like, I've come 10 years and fighting meth. I've been sober 15 years. I come from the streets of White Clay.
Yeah,
If you all wanna see White Clay, Google it. You'll know what I'm talking
I
about.
will.
I come from there.
Okay.
I was a crack addict myself for 15 years. I cooked my own crack.
I could relate.
You know, I
Oh,
lost
yeah.
out.
You can relate.
Exactly, yeah, like I'm sure we all, you know, I've overcome a hell of a lot of stuff, you know. I'm a survivor, I'm a MMIW survivor.
Yeah.
I'm, you know, the main causes, one of the main causes of MMIW is domestic violence.
Yeah,
I survived that,
yeah.
you know, and now I help other young girls.
Well, you've got the power, I believe you. Get some grant money.
I need
You
to,
need
I
it.
do,
Or
I know I
benefit.
do.
Find a grant, right?
Yep.
Right.
Or
But
sugar
I don't
daddy.
wanna be a 501c3, that's the thing, I don't wanna do that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something.
But I
You can
do have
partner.
a fiscal sponsor.
You can partner with somebody though too that
Yes,
holds that, you know, and you just,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, I'd rather do that.
Do less paperwork and get more money.
There you go, that part, that part.
Or find one of these rich actors who likes to benefit, you know.
Right, yeah, where's
You know, it's so
Leonardo?
trendy right now.
I heard Leonardo likes
You can get
us.
nominated for Academy Award, give us some money, you know.
I'll give him a Lakota name, give me a million.
I don't know, I ran into trouble with these.
Does anyone else have questions?
I do, yeah. I follow you all the time, I know you a long time, but the 4 trailers that you got, do you have an actual plot of land for them?
I do.
And is it on the res or is it?
Yep, it's
it
on
is?
the rest.
Nice,
I got
okay.
2.5 acres to start with.
Nice, and so, do you have like monthly payments on that you're
Nope.
having to?
Everything's
Awesome.
paid for.
Cool.
The Indian Collective, they
Nice.
pulled through.
Yes.
Bought me some homes to set up.
It's the least they can do.
Right? Yeah, baby, yeah.
I guess I'm curious, like, there's, I guess for both of you, like, there's this new law that's coming up, like Prop 36.
Ugh.
Have you heard about it? It's just like wanting to add more minimum sentences for like methamphetamine, basically.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering what you think about that, and if there's anything similar, like with politicians trying to make more criminalized.
Can you explain what that is? Because I don't know.
So Prop 36, it's about taking a minimum and so I can be clear on this because there's a couple of them. So they're trying to recriminalize. For a while, you could get away with having like small amounts of drugs, and because it's such a rampant thing, they're trying to bring that back so they can, start arresting people and having a reason to do that. I'm against any kind of criminalization because it comes from trauma, and people don't choose, to do this. You ask anybody who is doing drugs, they're not doing it because they want to be a drug addict or whatever. And so, everybody vote if you can against that. Vote Brooke Jennings out, our district attorney, who's terrible. Jenkins, who's terrible. And it's about, it's about really educating people and showing them the facts. We have years and years and years of facts. But many people want to have, they think harm reduction is this one thing, but it's a whole bunch of things that you have to build off of. And, you take the wins, like the fact that people are using less needles. We're seeing much of lower use of needles. And Hep C and HIV transmissions are way down. But you take that out, and then people start using more needles, and it's going to go up again. And so it's about taking those wins and building off of it. Also, you're graduating from needles to maybe not using needles, and then slowly, if you choose to decide to, be clean if you want, if that's the answer, you can get there. I truly believe that humans will always do drugs, and so it's about finding a balance. And so maybe looking at drug addiction a little bit differently and having some acceptance and to be able to approach them and not be scared or having to hide that. I think it is more honest, and if you have more support for people, then they can do what they do and it not have such ramifications on their life. That's the goal. But also, some people are wired differently too. Some people can do all the drugs in the world and nothing. They can function, high functioning, but there's some people that can't, and they just can't handle it. But a lot of that comes from just, you're wired differently. Like I can't drink coffee. At least if I'm on coffee, I'm a mess. That's a drug. So,
Yes.
it's just, it bounces around.
Just to add to what you're saying, it's, like that's the point of this space, is that it's whole person care, and harm reduction is translatable into community mental health, into substance use, into trauma, and also thinking about racism, institutional racism, and all the isms of all kinds. Ableism. And, we're seeing, like, with the storms that happened in the South, and just the way that mutual aid is coming to save lives, right? And what we need is to be able to find ways to expand our capacities for collective caretaking. What does that look like in all of our lives, in all the ways? And also knowing that exactly, like, stigma kills, and so finding ways to bring people out of silence and shame so that they're not isolating with their burdens.
And letting them choose what they want to. You can't have some, white savior sitting in an office somewhere dictating what they can do and what they need, and this doesn't work. You have to bring people in, because people know how to care for themselves and they know what they want. But also, there is a reason why we have, I think, I'm just going to use African American, for example. African Americans make about 3% of the population of San Francisco, maybe 3 to 5%, which is, out of every 100 people, there's 3 people of color, 4 people of color. But we're seeing 50% of them are on the streets. And so it's such an imbalance, Equity is much different than equality. Like, there's a big difference, and I think being honest about that and allowing people to take those resources and do what they need for their communities, and just until you do that, you're never going to have a result that's positive.
Is there anybody else on the staff who can I? Okay. I am a resisting veteran. I've been resisting for 15 years. When I was in the military, I worked in mental health, and I have been up in the Sacramento psych ward, military psych ward and stuff. And something that I saw over the last 15 years is that the psych wards went from you know, PTSD, all these diverse, you know, marginalized traumas, whatever, to only housing men on meth, basically. Like, that's what the psych wards are right now. And from that, like, institutional angle, I'm like when Julz' daughters are having trouble with meth, I'm like, they're specifically giving that to Mama Julz' daughter because she is a powerful woman, because she is Mama Julz' daughter, because they know that they're succeeding, you know, their hearts, their spirits are succeeding, and like, is there organizing towards that, like these are our geniuses, you know, that are being targeted for this stuff. So it's like, yeah, more than like equality, it's like, oh, they're, you know, it just feels a lot more like they're just specifically going towards the powerful ones to take them down, you know, and like taking away these support programs is part of that, you know, so.
As long as we have capitalism and in our democracy, everybody's earmarked for a role, and it doesn't really matter. So this part of the population is going to fill this role, because if you don't have these people, if you don't have drug addicts here, you're not going to have police. You're not going to have police. You're not going to have lawyers. You're not going to have lawyers. You're going to have the doctors. You're not going to have this, and it's all a formula. And so people are already earmarked before they're born where they're going to go. So, you know, in order for our democracy to work in this capitalist way, you have to have these numbers going in. And if the balance gets taken away, then what are they going to do? You know, so it might be a new drug tomorrow or something else to blame on that. But truly, it's bigger than all of us. It's part of the system of what we live in, colonialism. Can I say that properly? But that is, you know, the real problem. You know, we're not even teaching, you know, our history properly to our kids, you know. I grew up playing Lone Ranger, you know, like that's a fucked up thing for those brown kids to be playing in North Dakota. Like, that's fucked up. You know, it took me till I was 28 years old to know that Indigenous people were not the enemy, you know, like that's crazy. And it's part of the cycle, you know. Trauma is the problem.
It is.
And the you know, drugs are a way to release, and people just want to have fun and feel alive. And you know, sometimes drugs do that for people. You know, we just have to be honest about it.
Well, and I'm curious how many of the Blue Angel people are on that today.
Well, they probably, no, they are.
They've been since World War II.
We need to talk about this. So, I mean, we'll get Adderall. I get Adderall in college. Like, there's a point where you pick and choose. I can show you some fucked up people on Adderall, like literally. But it's okay because it's you know,
legal, man.
It's legal, but they go to work but they can't even keep their lives together. You know, like it's crazy.
Yeah. Just following up with that, you know, I was prescribed that at the age of 3, and I was on that for about 15 years, and I didn't sleep.
Yeah.
I didn't eat until it wore down, and then I had a voracious appetite.
Yeah.
I ground my teeth all the way down, and you know, I think that, you know, for me, like one of the things around the destigmatizing of meth itself is that it, like for so long for me, like being around it reminded me of that forced medication, right? And so, because it's like, I'm a really sensitive person, so it's like a similar energy, like I feel the energy.
It's electric.
It really is.
A lot of like I deal with whole families who are addicted to meth, from the grandma, great grandma, to the grandma, to the mom, to the child, to the grandchildren.
Yeah.
The youngest one that the youngest family that I worked with, the youngest one out of that family, he was 12 years old. But like first, the grandparents I used to do cocaine with them. Like they lived out in the country. We'd go out there and get high. We'd have to worry about fucking peeking out windows and shit, thinking the cops were coming. Like we were out, you know, we were out in the country. We didn't have to be standing out that hitting our crack, you know. And they're like 20 years older than me, and then they moved to meth. And it's just down the line, and just to keep the kids quiet, give them the same drugs. That's what I seen from this. So much trauma in this family. And it's,
The Jones is different on meth too. It's not like the cocaine, it's like you have to have it. But like meth, You can,
Just
it's
chill.
a longer high, you can just, you know.
Yeah, I've seen like,
It's much different, much cheaper, it's
Right.
easier, but it's so easy and, yeah, people can spin right out.
Yeah.
You know, definitely, it's more addicting than anything.
Do you think that the meth today is different than the meth 20 years ago?
well, I've only been doing this work for 10 years, maybe going on 11 years. And I've definitely seen the change in it. Like, they put more chemicals in it. Like, I watched a documentary of like those dealers praying like black magic and shit on it. And I just seeing some of our people just so fucking evil, just no spirit, just black eyes looking like just, you know. I just automatically start smudging. I hold on, sis, man.
The chemicals, even the last 10 years, they've changed. I mean, I know
Yeah.
from back in the day, in the early 90s, speed back then was much different than it is now. It's a different product. And as the years go by, they make it harder to get certain chemicals, and they substitute a couple in, and then you see like people having like, MRSA infections, or, it just changes. And that's the war on drugs. I mean, whenever there's a war on drugs, then we have bad results. We see that, that's why we have fentanyl today, is because of that. Leave the heroin alone, it would be a whole different world if we would just leave things alone. My dream is that they legalize anything they consider illegal, but then put, on the back end, if you're like, driving under the influence, or if you're giving to children or whatever, make that consequential versus saying, don't do this, but then making it a crime. Because we're adults, you should be able to make a choice. And I think if you legalize things and allow people to make a choice, keep the government out of it also, because that's when, we see things getting all messed up. That would be a better world for us, I think.
Yeah.
I know we talked earlier before when we had a conversation outside about how fentanyl hasn't really touched your community as much. And just about also the way that we share information amongst each other about, for example, on the East Coast, in New York and Philly and Pittsburgh, they're seeing tranq on the rise there, which is an entirely different drug that is, it's a flesh-eating illness where people are really dying and getting really sick from wounds.
I've seen videos.
And so I know people doing harm reduction there, but that's not really touched us yet. So how we educate ourselves as caregivers so that we are actually prepared to face these issues that are already, there's the waves. So being prepared for those things, I think, is part of what we can do to information share.
That's really important because, like, I seen fentanyl come in. Like, I'm like, it's a matter of time before it hits here because we have so many people addicted to pills.
Yeah.
And it hit a few people, but like, the rest of the people seen like, they took one hit and they fucking died. Like,
Is there access to opiates like Oxycontin, and things like that?
Just hydrocodone and oxycodone.
Okay.
But our hospital is so, like, they think everybody's there just seeking painkillers. Like, when I broke my arm, I was seen in the ER. This was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
The ER gave me 3 days worth of hydrocodone, and then I had to follow up with the orthopedics, and then they gave me ibuprofen.
Yeah, but it's not gonna cut it.
Yeah, and so then, like, of course people are gonna go to the streets and look for them, because you're not giving them to the right people who actually need them. Like, they drew my blood before they even gave them to make sure I wasn't on meth, or to make sure I didn't have any opiates in me. And then they did talk shit about me having weed in my system.
That's just a lack of
And so
education.
even then, like, I had to, like, I was in pain, I was freaking crying. And I'm like, look in my record, look in my medical record, like, when was the last time I've ever even received anything like this from y'all? Like, when was the last time I was even in here?
What about benzos, like Xanax and things like that? Like,
they send them to mental health and they do give them things like that. They have my mom on that, but
Yeah.
she said she don't like it, so she.
Yeah, well, that's usually what gets people from out of the haze of like the opiates.
Oh, okay.
Whenever you hear somebody like, you know, like shoplifting or something like that, it's because they've taken a benzo.
Oh.
It's the happy drugs usually, but.
Well, give me a benzo.
But there's
I'm
been
gonna go
such a
shoplift.
But the war on drugs, because they were such a rampant thing, you know, Florida was a place where, you know, anybody could go get a prescription.
Oh, wow.
And, you know, they really, you know, because of the opiate settlements against the company, you know, the people that made, Oxycontin.
Our tribe got
Yeah.
millions off
Yeah.
that settlement, and
So-
they embezzled it all.
Wow.
They didn't even give me one red penny for my mission.
So part of our funding is through from the
Oh,
opiate settlement, which they got,
nice. I think that's
$600 billion or something
That's
ridiculous.
badass.
Supposed to be
I'm
put
glad-
back into programs.
I'm glad you all got some of
But,
that.
you know, there's gatekeepers, you know?
Oh, yeah.
It's gatekeepers, and it's like, it's crazy because, you know, the reason why we have an influx of fentanyl is because of that. They made it hard for people to get the opiates, and,
Yeah.
you know, we just showed a film here earlier, in this, summer, about how the Oaxacan indigenous people in Mexico who grew the poppies for the cartels are no longer in business and they have nothing, you know, that's their income, but weren't really told and are left there being told to try to grow avocados and corn in the mountains. It's not gonna work. But they were actually bringing the opium for the cartels, and now fentanyl, which they've been able to synthesize, now changed the whole dynamics of a whole economy of people. And fentanyl's terrible, you know, it's meant for anesthesiologists to, you know, do surgery. And here, because they can't measure it, you can get somebody who's got a bag that can kill everybody in this room. And then another bag will be like, won't do anything to anyone. So it's just so inconsistent.
Also, they're weighing all their shit up on the same scale, so like cocaine has been, my homies out in St. Louis, they went out to party, they couldn't find.
Contaminated.
Their main plug was out of town, so they went to a different one. And here, they all start falling out, and one of them was able to call the cop, or the 911, and they got them all to the hospital, and they were all overdosed on fentanyl.
Does everybody have Narcan?
I do.
And we would like to give you some Narcan today, and I can show you how to
Everybody
use it,
should
and give you a
get-
face shield. So
Yeah, I swear,
it's great to
everyone.
have in your bag. I've saved probably about 28 people in the last 10 years. And it's just so easy, but people are scared because, you know, you have to breathe for somebody. So we have these great face shields also.
That's dope.
And I can give you some Narcan
Oh,
for
yeah.
you today.
Everyone
That's
should
what's
have
really
Narcan.
saved people. Every week we probably have 6 or 7 overdoses outside here. We've not lost one person.
Nice.
But it's because of having that. And, you know, people that are in the community, I mean, Narcan's changed the game for, you know, I think we're having 287 overdoses a daily in San Francisco. And majority of those they're not dead. So
Oh, they're not dead.
because of Narcan.
Scared.
With
Yeah,
the
yeah.
with the fentanyl, do you have to just keep hitting them with Narcan over and over?
No. You don't,
Okay.
that's what we don't want to do, because
Okay.
there's a thing called compassion overdose reversal. So the thing about Narcan, what it does, so in your brain, you know, when you do the opiate, what happens is your neurons quit firing, so then it stops and then you quit breathing. And so all an overdose is a loss of breath. So when somebody overdoses, you want to breathe for them. When you give them Narcan, you give them a shot of Narcan, what it does is then it goes and it pushes that out, so then it can start firing up. But depending on how strong the opiate is, and so like if it's fentanyl, it's really, really strong. You want to give up to 2 to 3 doses at the most within a 10-minute period, but you want to wait a little bit. You want to breathe for the person. So if somebody's overdosed, the first thing you want to do is breathe, and keep breathing for them. Call the ambulance, give them Narcan, and it should start working. If it doesn't, that means they've died, or they've had alcohol in their system also, or benzos, which if you have alcohol and benzos, there's no coming back from that. Like literally, you have to breathe for somebody. Because the Narcan doesn't push that out, it only pushes out the opiates. But breathing is the most important thing that you can do for somebody, it's breath. If you give somebody who is opiate addicted and give them a bunch of Narcan, when they do come out of it, they're gonna be so sick and, rageful and violent, and you don't wanna do that. It's not compassionate, it's not nice. That's just more with the Narcan.
Okay.
And right here, by the way, we do have plenty of
Yeah,
Narcan
we'll
for
give you
people to
Narcan.
take, and also we have face shields.
Yeah, we'll give
Just let
face
us know.
shields, Narcan, keep it in your bag, it's easy to do. But at the end of the day, if somebody's not breathing, it's okay to give them the Narcan, because it doesn't change them
But
otherwise.
isn't it the nasal?
Well, we have both kinds, we have nasal and we have injection.
But the injection is just muscular.
In the butt,
In the
usually,
butt.
just somewhere like they have muscle, you don't wanna,
Okay.
it's a big needle, you stick it in quickly and it's easy to do, but some people are scared of the needle.
Okay.
But nasal's good, but you just wanna breathe and call the ambulance. That's
Well,
the thing.
CPR, is that?
So CPR is something that they recently, since COVID, brought in. You can hurt somebody if you're pressing on their chest. CPR, you wanna breathe for them. So you wanna